I ftuari në vazhdim është zoti Marcel Cohen, të nderuar teleshikues. Ai është një kanadez me origjinë ebraike, por i lindur dhe i rritur në Turqi. Me zotin Cohen na njoh një bashkëdhetar i cili na sugjeroi ta takojmë si njeri me një mendim shumë të mirë për shqiptarët, të krijuar nga njohjet e afërta me ta, sidomos me disa nga bashkëdhetarët, të cilët i ka punësuar në klinikën e tij mjekësore. Takimi ynë përkoi me javën e edukimit ndaj Holokaustit dhe sigurisht në bisedë e cekëm edhe temën e shpëtimit të ebrejve nga shqiptarët gjatë luftës së dytë botërore. Përvojat e tij jetësore, formimi akademik dhe karizma e tij shpresoj se do të përcillen sadopak në ekran dhe në një farë mënyre do të shërbejnë të kuptojmë më mirë njërin prej grupeve etnike me të cilin bashkëjetojmë në Kanada. Marcel, first of all, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation for an interview for Pasqyra Shqiptare Show.
Yes. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm honored to be here. I really like this opportunity. Thank you.
Can you tell me first how and when did you first hear about Albanians in Canada? Or earlier, maybe?
This is one of those interviews that I have to start from the end. My name is Marcel. My last name is Cohen. And judging from my last name, my culture is Jewish. And I was born in Turkey, in Istanbul. Mm-hmm. And both of which they have an effect and influence and exchange with the Albanian as a country and its people. So I was exposed to it way back, and at our time we called it Arnavut, of course, and when I came here to Canada, became real. Now I was able to touch, to talk, to feel the Albanians and the experiences that I had. Now I had a real feel about them and for them.
How was to be a Jew back then in Turkey? We are talking about 50s and 60s, right?
60s, yes.
60s?
In retrospect, no problems, except that we have this misunderstanding, misconception, and wrong viewpoints in terms of if you are a minority in a country, then you feel like you are being oppressed, suppressed, observed. It may be true in some cases. In Turkey, that was not quite the case, except that our upbringing, our grandparents and our parents, look, this is a Muslim country, we are Jewish people, we have to keep it a low key. So for 17, 18 years, I grew up that way, to keep it a low key. It's not the way you are supposed to live. But what really, and most people live that way, although today it is different. Mind you, most Jewish and minority people, they change their names to Turkish names. So there's a measure of all of them feeling that way. They want to assimilate easier, at least by name. But here's what happened that changed my entire life for the rest of my life. And at that time, I decided, like most people like myself, to continue to my studies, as well as, of course, that's what the parents, they want. And I end up going to Israel to continue to my studies.
What year?
70s. And I was studying at the Technion, Israel Institute of Technology. And as I was getting older and being a Turkish citizen, I was being asked to be drafted back in Turkey, because at that time that was the case, not anymore. So a decision had to be made, because all my life I grew up that way, and now to go back to the military of the same oppression, so to speak, not. That was an interesting decision, but it came to me naturally, and my parents and I, we decided I'm going back for my military service. Guess what? I land in Turkey, and I go to various military offices, and I present myself. They welcomed me very well, like impressively. And especially if you had the higher education, engineering and whatnot, then they do like people of that nature, regardless what is your background, by the looks of it. And I got drafted into the military, and then I was asked to go to Turkish military officers. They graduated me as an officer. So a Jewish boy became a Turkish military officer in Turkey. My views started to change very drastically. I grew up in one way, but yet look, so all our viewpoints and ideas about who we are living under, so to speak, were totally wrong. On top of it, they could not decide as to how can we take advantage of this man, whether we send him to the army or Navy or the Air Force, depending as to what their needs are. So I got trained to be an Air Force lieutenant. So they did that as well. And then I got assigned to Middle East to serve in a common defense installations, assisting NATO. And I served under the Turkish rule, the Turkish military, Air Force, and with the Americans. And I had certain assignments over there. The Turkish people, the government, totally ignored my background. They just looked at me as a Turkish citizen, extremely well qualified, and they have assigned me projects that I'm still enjoying them till today, and they're up until now they are still relevant. So that was my background and relation with Turkey. So I have to say the beginning was a bit awkward because that's what I was taught by my parents, but my experience has been great, and I'm very proud of that.
How did you become a medical engineer?
Medical engineering is, again, like all your questions to me are going to be interesting questions because none of them, they follow the norm. My interest ever since my childhood was to be an engineer, an electrical engineer in particular. It started really very early. So all my high school education and all my university education all had to do with engineering, and in particular electrical. So my expertise, interest was electromagnetics, radiation, conducted, and then as well as radiated, which if you have a question about that later on, there is more to talk about it in terms of 5G, wireless today, so forth and so on. In the military, I had lots of practice in that particular field. And then in one way or another, when I got sent, or I came to Canada to continue to my studies at the Western University, I continued those studies in more in depth. Later on, I became an associate of the department at the University of Toronto Engineering Department, all the while studying electrostatic discharge and radiation, so forth, and so on. And then I was assigned to be working with telecommunications companies, Bell, Nortel, Bell Northern Research, and doing in-depth research. At that time, the technology was moving from analog technology to digital technology. That meant that we humans, we became susceptible to the airways. And then while you're using your phone next to your head, essentially you have an antenna radiating continuously onto your head. This is true up until now, by the way. On top of it, now we have the so-called 5G antennas all over, so we are being radiated for that as we are traveling. On top of that, at home you have all your Wi-Fi turned on, radiating onto you. So we are continuously being radiated and damaged as a result of that. So all that put it together.
Is there any proof that we are being damaged? Are there scientific proof or just in theory?
That is a natural question really to ask. Yes, there is. Except that the industry has to work on black or white. Do we have
either yes or no?
Either yes or no. And for decades, this particular subject has been gray. But evidence started to build up in terms of, certain brain tumors. The statistics of it will be somewhat different and more aggressive, say, as a result of this radiation that we are enveloped with over the last few decades. If you consider that to be an evidence, then yes, plenty of that. But otherwise, specific research that will come out, even if it exists, and put on the table, will be causing to a lot of difficulties and troubles to various industries, like really everything else. Is this good or bad? Well, it depends. If you use it in a safe way, for example, use your cell phone a couple of inches away from your ear so that the effect of the radiation onto you will be less. Plus, the technology is advancing and the radiation from the phones are less. But there are institutions, not necessarily formal sanctioned by the either pharmaceuticals or by the governments, that they have clinical proof, not necessarily promulgated into the marketplace. This is what you need to do or not to do. Clinical proof that the Wi-Fi and 5G are most damaging, and that you are advised to turn all the power off when you go to bed at night time. And when you're using your phone, do it maybe with the Bluetooth or farther away from your head, so forth and so on.
Okay. Sorry for this interruption. So you were talking about your career as a medical engineer.
That's right.
How did you get in business then?
In my family, we are into real estate like everybody else. I combined the two and decided to do the real estate game, so to speak, in a more difficult or in a more complicated way by owning and establishing a medical facility from a base to work from. And we have been doing this Northrop Medical Center, for example, where we are today. We have been working at it for about 20 years, all the while the idea being to bring all the facilities under one roof, one ownership, one management, so forth and so on, so that we can create synergies between the clinics, between the doctors, between the facilities. And as we speak, now we are successful. It took really a long time. It took a long time to convince the industry that this is how a medical facility needs to run and that we can all cooperate and we can make this thing work.
I spoke to a couple of your staff members. They are Albanians, yes, and they spoke very highly about you, yes, about your personality. And they also mentioned that this personality in a way radiates into the business itself.
Yes.
What is your philosophy? Like business philosophy in terms of putting people first or money first?
People may mistaken the Jewish people that they are money people, they put money first.
I didn't suggest that. No.
Of course, no, I understand, of course, but my apologies, I understand. But that is not the case really at all. Mm-hmm. Any person, regardless Jewish or not, if they are successful because they are not putting money first. This has nothing to do with being Jewish or any other culture, really. Yes. So yes, the answer to your question is people first. And then as we interview them, not only that we interview them for qualifications purposes, that is obvious, that's why we are having the interview, but we spend more time who they are, what their interest is, what is their better part, husband or wife or kids they do, so forth and so on. So we are very intimately involved with the person that we are considering to bring into our family, as well as his family. Why? Unless they are happy back at home, there is no way they can perform for us. So when we are hiring, it's like when you get married, you're getting married to your spouse family as well. Same thing with the employees. When we bring an employee in, we call it a family. Whether we like it or not, whether you subscribe to the overall philosophy, that is the only way to go. You are bringing in a family, except that only one member is showing up at work. That is the secret to our success.
I'm sure you have screened a number of Albanians too. Is there any particular trait that sets them apart from other ethnic groups?
Look, I'll tell you something that may surprise you. Over here we see almost 1,000 people a day, and we supervise them in any case. And then you will find situations where people with identical disease or condition, except different ethnic background, depending on what their background is, they may react better to treatments and they may be better off faster and quicker. So some cultures lend themselves to be that way, and some cultures they take a little bit longer. I'm not going to analyze it for you right now, but that is a fact as far as really I'm concerned, as well as based on our research and studies. Mm-hmm. And then some cultures, primarily, especially the Albanians, they happen to fall in that category. Easygoing, very calm, never getting angry. They do the job above and beyond. They have your back. They are loyal, not complicated, no justifications, no excuses. They don't miss day of work. And they are very tenacious. So the collection of these qualities is significant. What culture or what person has all that in one package? So then I knew what I knew from before I came here, and then after establishing this business and interviewing people and then bringing the Albanians in, when I was exposed to that, I am still thirsty for people with Albanian background, so to speak, that they can offer what is that we can use as far as this medical business is concerned.
Very interesting. Thank you for the nice words. Albanians, generally, this is my opinion, see Jews as smart, hardworking, and very cooperative with each other. Yeah. How do you see yourself?
Look, I'll tell you something. The only way for me to see you that you are a good person, I have to be as good as you. Otherwise, I'm not going to see you. Albanians, they have this view of the Jews, whatever they think of them, of the Jews, let's say highly.
Positive things, yeah.
Yes, it's because they themselves are like that. Otherwise, if you are not that, how are you going to recognize it in somebody else? So they are, when they look at the Jewish people, they see themselves, and vice versa. And vice versa. You see, Jewish people don't put the money first. They put people first. And then what comes next? Trust, loyalty.
Yeah.
All that we have, and that's why we do well, all that they have. Although historically we are a little bit in different position now today in the world, but as far as I'm concerned, Albanians, they have what it takes, because I see it in them who I am. They have it. They just need a good measure of more guidance and support and hand-holding. And I'm doing my bit here as far as I'm concerned.
It is a great opportunity to talk about one moment in history that connects our two communities, Jews and Albanians, all over the world, but specifically here in Toronto. The topic is the rescue of Jews in Albania from Nazis during the Second World War. As a Jew, how do you see this action, and how much information do you have, first of all, about what happened back then in 80 years ago?
Honestly, the Jewish people and the Albanian people, they share, something is connecting us, obviously, beyond what we see today, to start with. Maybe even silent. We feel each other, we see each other beyond the spoken words, which is why the Jewish people, they showed tremendous respect from American senators and whatnot towards what Albanians have done. What really brings us together is our background in terms of our sufferings. Mind you, everybody around the world has really suffered and still really suffers. And the Jewish people maybe recuperated a little bit faster. Well, Second World War is not quite showing that. And then when people say Jewish people are smart, how can they, such a culture, such a nation, being so smart, they walked into the Nazi camps without resistance and they followed order? It is really, still really mind-boggling. The same is true for the Albanians. Albanians going back 1500 BC, they were huge. They were like almost the entire Balkans, and then the entire
known as Illyrians.
Yeah, exactly, yes. And then part of Italy, the coastline, and all that. If you go like time by time, like every 50 years or 100 years, it grew, it shrank, it grew, it shrank, but all the while shrinking more than really growing. How is it that such people, like Jewish people, they lost 6 million? Just 50, 60, 70 years ago, with all their smartness, with all their goodness, with all the abilities that they have. And then Albanians, how did they manage having all this and then losing it, and look where they are today? So we are connected both historically in terms of what together we have experienced and separately we have experienced. Plus we are connected in terms of what makes us as human beings, our characters, our personalities, our abilities. There is a significantly a match there. And we feel obligated, we respect each other, we love each other, and we feel obligated, responsible for each other. And now today we are, I mean, you mentioned the Holocaust, they are paying the respects to what the Albanians they did. They helped us at that time. And then countries, nations much bigger than Albania, they do not move a finger. So there is really something there. So that calls for respect not only for today, forever. And then this is really where we are today. And I'm super happy and proud and honored that I have Albanians in my life. And there's so much more that I really want to do and we'll be doing together here. From here, we'll see where that road takes us.
Marcel, allow me to ask another question. Are you happy in Canada?
if I have encountered.
Yeah, you have lived in several countries, I heard.
Yes.
In Turkey, in Israel, now in Canada, right?
Yes.
Is this your country that you felt in love with?
I must tell you a big yes. I do love Turkey. I have the respect for them for what they did to me. They offered me, they accommodated me. I love Israel for giving me the education and for having my back from far away. If it wasn't for Israel, maybe the Jews would not have been done as well in diaspora. However, living our life day to day, but most importantly, if you're a person that you live your life for the greater good, every day we start our day, what can we do today for other people? We are as rich as we are able to help other people, lift them up. Canada is that country. Canada does not have the problems of Turkey, of Albania, of Israel, of all that. Mm-hmm. All their attention units over there, it is being deposited there. They have very little time to look after themselves, let alone to look after others. Canada is the most unique country in the world that we are tremendously lucky with our natural resources. The economy is not an issue. And that we don't have such problems, political or bureaucratic or otherwise, that it takes all our attention units, it consumes us, it makes us sick. There's a place, if you have what it takes, if you have the right abilities, the right character, personality, and the right intention, and the right purpose in life, this is the country, not even the States. Not even the States. That is for another story. They play their role in different ways. Canada is the place where you can be the greatest humanitarian. Canada is the place where this can be the hub to assist any nation, any country, any culture, any civilization, past, present, and future. I love it. I love it. I came here on a temporary basis to continue to my studies. I got noticed by certain institutions, Mr. Cohen, we'd like you to stay. And I did. I had the secret clearance from the government of Canada to work on certain projects. I very much appreciate and love that I had those opportunities to work on such critical projects. So that going down, and today it still continues, the cooperation that we have with all professionals, with the hospitals, with the governments, because everybody, they have one interest: to look after the country, to look after each other, and especially being multicultural, it makes it even much, much more interesting.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure meeting and talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
شوف الامداد.
Thank you.